Jeremy. This video is a follow-up to a video I posted in 2017 about my boat loader system, which was how I loaded my boat onto my truck before. And in 2021, that truck got hit when it was parked and written off. And so I salvaged some of those materials and brought them over to my new build here. Today behind the camera we have George. So George is a good friend. We've been camping together for years. In fact, we're camping today out near Harrison Lake in British Columbia in Canada. So thanks for filming, George, and I thought maybe we could dive into a van tour here. So this is my 2004 Toyota Sienna all-wheel drive LE. So I bought this in early 2021 at about 188,000 kilometers, and it now has 224,000 or about 140,000 miles on it. So we can start at the front here. So I have the 3.5-inch lift on it from Journeys Off-Road. Obviously this is a significant lift for a minivan. Of course, in that situation, you want to think about the stress on the stock Sienna parts. But I haven't had any suspension issues so far. I've got about 35,000 kilometers on the kit, and it's been excellent. It's just important to be aware of a CV axle issue. If you need to swap out the CV axles, you have to use the OEM ones, but otherwise the lift kit has been excellent. So I've also got the BFG KO2 245/65/17 tires on stock. 17-inch aluminum wheels, no wheel spacers. I swapped these out seasonally with Nokian snow tires, a smaller snow tire with no problem. Just usually do that because I was commuting on the Coquihalla, and of course on that, which is a highway on BC, and of course on that you want the best snow tire possible. I've also got a full-size tire and wheel on the roof, which is from a parts yard. It's not another expensive KO2, so I just use that to kind of limp to the tire shop if I need to. And so moving along, we have a Thule wind fairing up here. So the rack has brutal wind noise without it, so I just need to have that on there. Up top I also have a Zamp 115 watt solar panel with a 3-port roof cap. So you can have up to 3 panels connected to that. And down below, this is connected to a 30 amp solar charge controller. So that's underneath the bed here. I've also got a 100 watt portable Renogy suitcase kit. And just be aware you need to use a polarity reversal piece if you're connecting the Renogy to the Zamp. But with that piece in place, the 2 panels together have been great. And then connected to the charge controller, and then 2 AGM batteries running in parallel underneath the bed for a total of 160 amp hours. You can also see here too the Road Shower 4. So this is a pressurized potable water tank that holds 7 gallons, about 27 liters. This used to be on the roof as a shower, but obviously I've moved it underneath the bed since, and it's been great. Up top too, we have the Rhino rack, the Sunseeker awning. This is a necessity for rain. I think you kind of convinced me on this one, but I say we should just call it the Rain Seeker. I was skeptical at first just with mold on fabric, but I've actually had a good opportunity to dry it out every time, so that thing's been awesome. And then if you come further along here, towards the back, you just see this wiring input. So this includes wiring from the 2 solar panels, the LED lights on the roof, the DC to DC charger, and then the shore power connection. And so in here we have some insulated foam, just some waterproof Gorilla Tape, and then a window cover as well over top of the gap here. And I went with this system just because there's limited space in the grommets in the firewall and also in the back hatch to run wires. I know those are the most common places that you run wires in vans. But with this much wiring, it's worked out really well to just go through this window. I haven't had any issues with it. The only problem is that it's kind of ugly, but it's functional, so I'm gonna leave it like that for now. The other point I'll make too is that I wanted to not have any permanent holes or anything drilled in the van. So it's easy to take everything off the roof in a short amount of time and just kind of revert back to what it was if I want to do that. Maybe I'll include a picture of that here as well, just what the van looks like without anything else on the roof. Okay, so moving on, we've got this Noco shore power plug up top. This is for running the heater or charging batteries when the shore power is available. It's great for campgrounds in the winter. I've also got this rigid D series LED. Interestingly, the switches are located next to the bed so that they can be flipped on or off at night. Just if you hear wildlife or footsteps, I think it's great to be able to just flip those on and scare away whatever's on there. Underneath here, I have a Curt 4,500 pound hitch. This is used to tow a 12-foot aluminum boat, which has been great, as well as a Kuat swing away hitch, which I use with either a cargo carrier or a spare tire carrier, which I'll throw on occasionally if I want to pull everything off the roof and just try and save some gas mileage on a longer trip. Okay, and we'll open up the back hatch. So a couple things in here. I'm going to start with the sink. So this is a cake baking pan. Obviously, if you're doing a sink, you can make it out of anything you want, really. I just drilled a hole and added a drain with the Whale hand pump. So that's been great. Gives you really good pressure. And I've got a small freshwater, I think it's 7-liter freshwater tank in the back here. Even smaller gray water tank. This sink is really just for washing hands, teeth brushing, food, washing food, just the basics. And then a little switch here so you can control where it goes. You can also just have the sink drain to the ground if you want. And the sink is inset into a marine plywood here. I've also got this Dometic CC40 fridge. This just runs off DC power from the house battery bank. It ran off AC power initially, but thankfully you told me not to do that, George. It can also run off DC power from the starter battery if I just plug it into the stock Sienna outlets in the back. But if I'm going to be driving for a long time, but generally it just sips power from the house battery. So, and I got some AC outlets and some USB outlets here. So these are connected to a 1,000-watt Renogy inverter, which is underneath the bed, as well as the inverter switch, which is here. This has been great for running basic appliances and power. The inverter positive is connected to a 125 amp terminal fuse on a fuse block, which is connected to the house battery. And then as well, I've got this aluminum fold down table, which is somehow ended up being a perfect size for this van. So this is made by Black Boar, and I love having this table here. We'll flip that up, and then you can kind of duck down underneath. There's some storage under here. So this is where I keep, right way in the back there, you can probably see the electrical and the batteries, and then I've got storage for just camping equipment and recovery gear as well, a couple straps and shackles and things like that. And I also usually keep my Easy Up tent here, which is kind of off in the distance there. I have regular walls and like a mosquito screen for that, and I've waterproof sprayed the walls, and it's awesome. Like that, those tents, I've pushed them past probably what they're supposed to be used for, and it's been reliable and great in snow and rain and things like that. So happy to have that. Okay, I'll close this up. Okay, coming around the side, let's have some more rigid LEDs up here. These are connected to this Rolla rooftop cargo carrier by these LED mounts by Nylite, which have been great. I've also got a sort of job box style cargo box up there for anything flammable, like firewood, propane, butane, bear spray, things like that. This is actually the second iteration of the roof rack. So the first iteration, like I said, was a welded steel system that was for loading my boat on top. And maybe I'll show, because I had pulled some of that over to this van, maybe I'll just show a photo of that here as well. And I've combined this system with the Thule square bars, which are on like an adapter for the stock Sienna rails. This has been a great way to support the solar panel up front. Just open this door. Okay, so here's the bed. This is wood, 2x4 and 1/2-inch plywood. I covered it in primer and then outdoor carpet, which is stapled and glued. So this holds 2 adults and heavy gear, no problem. I used to carry my outboard motor on here. So I'm 6'3", and with the seats pushed forward, there's definitely enough room to stretch out inside. So the bed is 3 separate sections that are connected to the seat anchors in the floor. I basically had to eyeball the necessary height from the platform off the floor in terms of sitting up in bed and the room that the mattress takes, but overall it's worked out really well. And I use a 6-inch tri-fold mattress off memory foam mattress off Amazon, which has been great. Super cushy and definitely a step up from the inflatable mattress before. And you can probably kind of see the fairy lights inside there. Just got some softer lighting inside. I've also got some homemade window covers. So those are a combination of Reflectix and blackout fabric. And they're Velcro to the inside of the van to allow for a gap just between the cover and the window. So they had great insulation in the winter. In the summer I can kind of switch them so that the Reflectix is facing out. And then on the front window I use a pre-made window cover by WeatherTech, which has been awesome. So it's just the same principle. The shiny side will face in the winter when we want that extra heat. And then underneath you can see milk crate storage. So I've got 3 of these under here. And of course right now this is carrying the combination DeWalt compressor and jump starter, which I always have. I'm not sure if you can see the traction boards are kind of stored up underneath in there. So I often use those to level at the van and just in any sticky situations. I've got a carbon monoxide and smoke alarm underneath. It's carbon monoxide detector and smoke alarm underneath, as well as a fire extinguisher there. And for a heater, I use a 1500 watt electric heater if there's shore power, but if there isn't and it's super cold, I'm inside, I'll use this butane power heater, which is this little camp buddy. So this thing has been excellent. Obviously there's some restriction to how cold you can use butane, and of course running gas inside the van isn't great. You want to have the window cracked, and I'll just use it for a little while just to kind of get the ice off the windows if it's really, really cold. But I love this thing. This thing has been great. Okay, I'm just going into the front. So you can see up here I've got an iPad just running Gaia GPS. Been running that for, I don't know, the better part of seven years. Absolutely love that thing. And then I just swapped out the center console with a big plastic bin with a lid and some cup holders. And you can also see inside there an indoor-outdoor thermometer kind of up by the dash. So that's been key. And the rest of that is up on the roof here. So I'll speak to this rigid LED up front. So basically this is a bracket system that I have so that these LEDs are removable. I'll only put them on if I'm going to be doing something at night or some trail driving or something like that. They are super bright and really helpful, but I've found if I left them up for a number of years, like full time, they could get a bit of water in them and things like that. So I only really put them on when I need them, and I love having the quick release system. And you can see the wiring here coming up from the engine bay just to the lights, which are on either side. So on the other side there, you'll see similar wiring running up. So that's for the 20 amp DC to DC charger. A Renogy, I went with 20 amp because it runs off the stock Sienna alternator. It's located next to the Renogy inverter under the bed. So the DC to DC has just been critical for off-grid power in the Pacific Northwest. As you know, you pretty much need to combine it with some form of solar and shore power if it's available. Underneath here, I'll show you one other thing over here. This wiring is for the fuse tap for the DC to DC charger, which you need to have to power it. So I've wired it so that the power is sent to the DC to DC when the ignition is on. So obviously in this 2004 Sienna, I use fuse number 32, which is the rear wiper motor. So just a good piece of information to know if you're rigging up your DC to DC. And then on my phone, I have the Victron battery shunt, which you also told me about, to monitor incoming and outgoing charges, which has been great. The all-wheel drive itself has been awesome, particularly in the snow. The only downside of it is on this model, you can't turn off the traction control. So that tends to slow you down if you're in loose gravel or mud or something like that. So I'd try and recommend a later model where you can actually turn off the traction control. I am running a GPS-based tracker in here, just because I live in the city, thinking about theft at times. And you and I have also had discussions about insurance. So as you know, my last truck, like I said, it got hit and written off. So I just wanted to balance the amount of time and money I put into this build versus how much I was actually going to use it. And so I didn't want to overbuild, which is kind of why I just went with sort of simple and budget friendly. And it's just good to be aware that, you know, a van can kind of be written off at any point, despite how much work you put in it, with a simple accident. So that's why I liked keeping this one simple. And then another thing I want to mention is that there is kind of two modes to this bed system. The rear seats, so the second seats were removed, second row seats, but the third row seats are folded into the floor. And so with the second version of the van, the third row seats can actually pop up, and you use a section of the bed as a table. And so then you still have access to the fridge and things like that. So maybe I'll add another photo of that here. Okay, so a couple of closing comments. Like in my professional life, I'm a biologist and I'm often tinkering on equipment, but I'm also a musician and an artist, and there's a huge artistic element to these builds. So in terms of creativity, I just love continually working on that and knowing people who are frequently working on these kind of builds. Of course, this stuff also facilitates seeing people you care about and getting out there, which is the whole point. So as we've done today, I love it out here at Harrison, and I'm really happy to have shown you this. So thank you very much.